From the WATE.com Digital Center, answering your legal questions, this is Ask Isaacs. Now, here's Lori Tucker and attorney Greg Isaacs.
Hi, everyone. It's just one of many big stories this week we're going to talk about. I'm Lori Tucker along with our legal analyst, Greg Isaacs. It's good to see you.
Lori, good to see you.
Here's what's going on. This week, police departments, as we've reported across Tennessee, including now Knoxville, are investigating the distribution of flyers. You see them there, apparently distributed by the Ku Klux Klan. KPD confirming with us this afternoon. Flyers have been found in Knoxville, also in Sweetwater and Chattanooga. And Greg, the flyers implore people to self-deport and even provide contact info for the KKK. So, having said all that, I guess they're pretty easy to get in touch with. Are they in trouble?
Well, it's never a good sign when the FBI's JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, is involved in trying to track down someone involved in a potential crime. I would venture to say, and I've not done this, if one calls the numbers on the flyers, that there would not be someone that would pick up the phone and go, Ku Klux Klan, can I help you? Let me put you into our new recruit office. So I think that's a non sequitur. But one thing that's interesting, and there has just not been an isolated incident in Lenoir City, Sweetwater. These flyers or flyers that are very similar have been dumped in Chattanooga,
We're talking
Lenoir City,
hundreds. You saw a video of it.
And today we got reports from the Knoxville Police Department that there were some here in the city of Knoxville. They're also online in a number of posts. But what's really interesting is it triggers two things, and that's how you can see this dual approach by law enforcement with the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force and local law enforcement. Sweetwater Police, the Knoxville Police Department, there are very strong state criminal offenses and federal offenses when you seek to intimidate someone's exercise of civil rights.
Let's first talk about hate crimes and the laws about them in Tennessee.
In Tennessee, we have a crime. It's called intimidation of civil rights, and it's very broad. And the legislature, in the preamble to this statute, talks about every person, regardless of race, ancestry, color, religion, national origin, are to be secured and protected from fear and intimidation and harassment, and exercising rights that are guaranteed by both the Tennessee Constitution, the United States Constitution, and our laws. And, intimidation is a very broad concept.
Right.
Threat is a very broad concept.
And when does intimidation and hate cross the line into terrorism?
Well, it's when you look at the flyers from the Ku Klux Klan that have been distributed here in East Tennessee, one thing they say is, leave now, self-deport, avoid detention. So there are a lot of rights in between the acrimony and the vitriol.
This is Americans on guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, in terms of self-report detention, I don't know that they're speaking for the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, whatever. So, obviously the intent was to intimidate, threaten, and harass. In Tennessee, that can be a minimum of a D felony with 2 to 4 years. There can be certain enhancements. Federally, it could be a crime that could carry up to 10 years.
And I know federally, they go after, there's an aggressive effort to track down these folks.
Right, and when you deal, and I've had meetings with the Joint Terrorism Task Force of the FBI, they when they put boots on the ground, they are very thorough, very professional. So I think it's going to be a short period of time before the origin of these flyers is found, and it's going to be interesting what the response is going to be by federal officials and state officials.
Right, and on the federal level, do you think there will be an aggressively going after these folks, or is it just going to stay here? I mean, so far it's been kind of quiet. We haven't. We know they're investigating. That's all we know.
You know, we do, and you know, that's you know, normally we wouldn't have this component that is factoring into the equation, but we have a political void with the FBI.
Yeah.
So when you have a crime that is a very broad, sensitive crime that touches, you know, a portion of East Tennessee, you know, is that something that the FBI is going to aggressively pursue
Right.
with the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the U.S. Attorney's Office? Because, you know, what you have is you're waiting for appointments for the director of the FBI. You're waiting to see if the local U.S. attorney is going to be replaced. So, you know, all the major decision makers are politically in limbo.
Right.
And this isn't just a little issue. This is a very significant issue when the KKK blankets a large sector of East Tennessee and intimidates, threatens whomever.
You know, you were talking about the number that they provided. We did have one of our newsroom staffers call that number, and it went to voicemail asking for donations and sent information to the national office. So that's what you get usually when you call on this. And this is just one of a lot of hate crimes that have happened over the years. 2023, sadly enough, was the biggest year in terms of the number of hate crimes against people, the number of reported hate crimes.
It is, and a hate crime carries under state and federal statutes. It touches on a number of areas. It can be based on sexual bias. It can be based on your national origin. It can be based on racial bias. But when you look at the numbers in 2023, Tennessee had, and I say only, 122 confirmed hate crimes. Nationally, during that same time period, 11,862
The most recorded to date.
to date.
And in Tennessee, just looking at the types of hate crimes, 50% in 2023, those 122 cases, 50% were motivated by racial bias, 16% by religious bias.
And you know, and when you have the debate on hate crimes and speech, you always, you know, the touchstone is going to be the First Amendment. But Lori,
And a lot of people are saying, what, don't they have free speech?
Well, you know, you don't have a First Amendment right to obscenity. You don't have a First Amendment right, and I'll mention the old adage, to yell fire in a crowded theater.
There are lots of things the First Amendment does not protect.
You cannot look at child pornography.
Yeah.
But if these individuals are steadfast that they are exercising free speech, and these pamphlets and this concerted effort is not designed to threaten, intimidate, or harass, then where are you?
Right.
Why don't you come forward and say, hey, I am John Paul Jones from the KKK, and we are here exercising our First Amendment right to free speech. We're not threatening, intimidating, or harassing anybody. And, you know, God bless the USA. So, you know, that's what's kind of really interesting when they do it cloaked in secrecy and they dump these pamphlets anonymously.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of goes against a constitutional exercise of your First Amendment right to free speech. So, you know, if that's their steadfast belief and intent, you know, please come forward. I'm sure we could make time here on an episode of Ask Isaacs or elsewhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk more at 5:30, shall we?
Let's do.
All right.